I feel like this one is the most kind of responsive.
Donk is currently the highest rated player in the last month since...
This CS Pro is fragging out, and he uses right-click to walk?
Alright guys, it's finally time. It is my 2024 settings video.
2.37.
If you want to copy my settings, you have to have... First of all, you need to be my height, you need to have my chair height, you need to have my table height, you need to have my monitor tilt, and then you need to have the height of the monitor.
In case you hadn't noticed, there's a lot of videos out there telling you what settings to use in Counter-Strike 2. How's it going, everyone? My name is Revolver, and whether or not you just installed CS or you've played it for years, this is the only settings video you need to get your settings right so you can start playing immediately. Recently, Counter-Strike hit a new all-time player count. This kind of inspired me to get a quick settings video put together because I realized that most of the ones out there are very in-depth and complicated, and most new players just kind of want to be able to play the game. But don't worry, even if you have thousands of hours in CS, it's probably a setting you may not have known about, so be sure to check out the timestamps before you click off the video. All right, let's take a quick look at our basic video settings. Like I said, I'm not really going to go in depth. There's plenty of videos out there with everything you can ever need, including config files and benchmarks and all that kind of stuff. This is just a quick, simple thing to make sure that you've touched all the settings that you need to touch. Aspect ratio, it's personal preference. Resolution, again, personal preference. It's refresh rate, make sure that this matches your monitor. If you don't know how to check your monitor's refresh rate, I'll show you. So you're gonna open up your taskbar, you're gonna right click the Windows logo, you're gonna click settings, you're gonna go to system, you're gonna go to display, make sure the correct display is selected, click advanced display, and then check the refresh rate and make sure that the refresh rate is all the way up. All right, let's look at our advanced video settings, okay? Like I said, I'm just gonna touch the ones that you absolutely have to touch, okay? VSync, you have to disable VSync 100%. Reflex low latency, that is based on your card, so you can do that research yourself. Dynamic shadows, all. This is insanely important. If you've ever watched Counter-Strike and heard the term shadow advantage, if this is set to sun only, you're gonna miss like 3/4 of those shadow advantages. Recently, they did a great job over at Valve at pushing all of the GPU resources into the quality of the shadows and not how many. So if you're worried about your frames, you can always just drop the shadows to a lower quality. Just about everything else on here is personal preference, although I would tell you, don't set settings higher than they need to be. You will tax your GPU and lower its lifespan. The last two settings we have to touch here are these two right here, okay? These have to be the last settings you lower, or the game's gonna get very pixelated and it'll be very difficult to pick opponents out from the background they're standing against. Audio, the only one you really need to worry about, feel free to go through all these yourself, but the only one you really need to make sure you worry about is that the 10-second warning volume is set loud enough so that you can hear it, because that is how you know how much time is left on the bomb. So now onto our game settings. Say yes on the developer console. For the most part, you don't need to worry about it until you're looking up how to change something or affect something or do something, and it tells you to do it in the console. Now you'll know how to access it. If you've ever seen maybe pro players or CSGO players quick switch after they shoot their op, that's because these settings didn't exist and you always rescoped. If you're really wondering why you keep rescoping into your op after you shoot and rechamber, well, that's what this is. So make sure you set these both to no. So first person tracers, I have these off. In my opinion, they're still very misleading. I could go into the full detail on why that is and rendering gun versus where the bullets actually come out of, but I feel like that'd be a more in-depth thing that you can check out a different video on, or maybe I'll even make my own another time. Next, this is super important unless you want to be like simple.
Что это было? Что это было? Что это было? Подождите, подождите.
Make sure all three of these are set to no. Damage prediction, this is just going to make sure that you only see them die or take damage when the server is 1000% sure that's the case. It can make the game feel a little bit off sometimes, but it's more accurate and it's much better because, again, you don't want to look like this.
Что это было? Что это было? Что это было? Подождите, подождите.
All right, so next we're going to look at our keyboard and mouse settings. Now this is 90% personal preference, but there are some best practices and rules of thumb that I wanted to let you know about. Number one, you can set your sensitivity to basically whatever you want. However, I do recommend erring on the lower side of what you're comfortable with, but make sure you can do a full 180 without having to pick up your mouse. Last but not least, this will literally save your life. Make sure you have a separate bind for each of your grenades so that you can always pull out the one you need instantly and not have to waste time scrolling through. Also, make sure you're not going to exclusively rely on your scroll wheel to change your weapons. you want to make it so that you can very easily access specific weapons with one key press. And there you have it. Those are the settings you need in order to go play. What are you waiting for? Go play. Go. Go get spin botted by someone on Dust 2. Come on, hurry up. The classic Counter-Strike experience. And then, you know, download Face It and go get run over on Face It.